Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Charles Sabansi, and welcome you guys to another episode of the Dreamerspro Show, where we cover everything from sports, hot topics, classic debates, entertainment, when we give you guys a fresh perspective on things and how we see them. And today we're going to have a pretty fiery show for you guys, but before we get into it, please make sure you like the video and subscribe to the channel. Now, we took a day off yesterday because, damn it, we're tired, right? We took a day off. Some people even left a question on the channel. Hey, nothing today, Ben? We ain't got nothing for you today. But anyway, we're back. It's Saturday, and we normally produce content on Saturday, so here we are. So I was actually unsure about what to produce today because this morning, funny enough, when I woke up, I didn't see much. So I went out, came back, and then I saw an episode from Stephen A. Smith's show, his podcast, which is a very long show, about an hour and 38 minutes, this particular one. And in the beginning of it, it says something to the effect of, "How dare you," or something like that, Paul George, or whatever it is. And it's essentially Stephen A. Smith responding to some comments that Paul George had made. Now, before we even get into all of that, let me just give you guys some quick information here. First of all, I don't know how Stephen A. Smith is responding to something that was said about him 2 months ago, because initially when Paul George put out these comments, we actually produced a show around it, reacting to what Paul George said, because you guys know I'm a Kawhi Leonard fan and all of these different things. So what happened? Stephen A. Smith is doing his show in Las Vegas, right? He's in Las Vegas and he's teasing about responding to some comments that Paul George made. Now, some people may be saying, okay, what exactly did Paul George say about Stephen A. Smith? Because the last time we saw Paul George, he was injured. What apparently, this is what had happened. Kawhi Leonard got injured in the playoffs. The first game, he goes down. And then Stephen A. Smith came out and said he believes that Kawhi Leonard should retire. And he couldn't, why didn't he even go out there and at least try to play for 10 minutes or something like that? So Paul George, on his podcast with Jackie Long, they were reacting to what Stephen A. Smith said. So for those of you who actually didn't hear what Paul George said about Stephen A. Smith originally, we're going to play it for you now, and then we're going to continue with the show. So take a listen to what Paul George had to say there.
You try to play through injuries. Like, that's the goal. If you can play through it, you're going to play through it. If you can't, there's a reason why. Like nobody wants to sit out for no reason. Like, right. You can't play through that shit because you won't be yourself. Like, and what's the point of going out there and be like giving? I heard Stephen A. talk about he could have, like, Kawhi could have gave you 10 minutes or 5 minutes. Bro, it's not about that. Like, if I gotta go on the floor and I can't be myself, then like what the am I on the floor for? I'm liable to get even more hurt because I'm not myself, so I'm overcompensating, trying to do shit that I know I can't do. Like, it was a dumb take.
Have Stephen A. Smith played any professional sports?
Hell no.
Exactly. So he shouldn't even be speaking on what y'all got to go through every day to put y'all jersey on y'all back. Y'all jump up and down, run up and back and forth. Like,
yeah.
You don't think somebody eventually gonna get hurt and their body not gonna break down?
Right.
Yeah, we give all the ones credit who fight through them and everything, but you can't fight through every injury.
You can't fight through everything.
No, I wasn't upset that you didn't. I was upset that you didn't play in this series, but I was more happy that you was taking care of your knee than getting in this series just to win a game. If y'all would have made the next round, I would have been all like, "Come on, P, get in the game." You know what I'm saying? You ready? But Stephen A. Smith, you got to stop with that with these players. I know you was mad at Kawhi, but Kawhi is injured. He played the first game, he got injured. Second game, he gave you 30 or 40-some points. Third game, he couldn't do it. Yeah. It's just part of it. His body wore out.
Right. When the injury happened, the biggest concern when that injury first happened was my leg felt like it was just going to buckle and go the other way every time I took a step. So when you got that on your mind, when you're coming back, like, you're thinking about that. Like, damn, if I take this step, like, I know I'm not ready yet. I was going through the workout. I was like, yeah, I look good doing it, but, like, I'm not doing it on the same level these guys doing it right now. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, and so you're thinking about that. Like, you that's on the back of your mind.
You got to think of that.
So you heard what Paul George had to say. Basically, like, bro, what are you talking about right now? What are you talking about? Go out there and play for 10 minutes. You don't even know what goes into playing basketball at a high level for you to even be saying that, right? And Paul George is like, there's so many factors that go into playing again after you got injured, apart from the physical part, but also the mental part. Do you trust your body? Do you have the confidence to go out there and plant your foot and do all of these different things without second guessing yourself, especially when you're playing at that high of a level? So Paul George obviously thought that what Stephen A. Smith was essentially saying was some BS. So then Stephen A. Smith on his show takes it upon himself to basically deliver this onslaught on Paul George. And in addition to that, he even goes after him for his career earnings. The fact that he's made all of this money and half of the time he's not even playing for, he's not even available, but yet collecting checks. He went really deep on this. So what we want to do is want to play exactly what Stephen A. Smith said. It's lengthy. He spoke about it for about 25 minutes or so, but we're only going to play a certain portion of it, and then we're going to come back and react to his comments. Take a listen to what Stephen A. Smith had to say here.
Do you have any idea who the hell you're dealing with? Any idea at all? I think it's important to give my resume. Don't you? I think it's important. Speaking of my man, Galen Gordon, he's here in Vegas with me, my brother. Great television producer. He sit right next to me. I think it's fair. Paul George, I've been covering the NBA since 1996. In 2 years, that would make 30 years. I was covering the NBA since you were in elementary school. I think I know a thing or two about basketball. And I also think that covering the sport the way that I do, and you know this, Paul George, because of your personal experiences with me and some of the things that I could have said about contemporaries and colleagues and others that I never did, that you know if something comes out of my mouth, it's not just my opinion. Players, coaches, scouts, player personnel directors, assistant GMs, presidents, owners. Do you really want me to sit here and talk about the Los Angeles Clippers? The perks and the treatment that folks have received and how the fans have been cut short? I could go there. Paul George, did you know that you're the 34th highest paid athlete in the world, according to Forbes magazine, for the year 2023? $51.5 million total. $9.3 million in endorsements. I could say I'm waiting for a championship, Paul George, for that kind of money. But I happen to believe you would have had one had it not been for your injuries, because I think you're that gifted. So I'm not going to disrespect you like that. Plus, I got love for you. Did you know that Kawhi Leonard is number 35 on the list? Last year, $50.5 million total. $8 million in endorsements the year 2023. If you combine your money with his money, that equates to $102 million in salary and $17 million in endorsements for a franchise that went the home in the first round. I would repeat that, but I don't think it's necessary. One more thing, Paul. 228 NBA players have played more games than you. You're at 189 games over the last 4 years. 297 players have played more games than the 161 games Kawhi Leonard played over the last 4 years. Do I need to continue? Everybody saying no. Paul George, as you know, my sister Carmen adores you, loves you to death. She's here in Vegas too, you know. She's standing a few feet away from me. She's going to be on here in a few minutes. Do you know that she's sitting over there 5 feet away from me, Paul George, cringing, begging me to stop? Please stop talking about Paul. Please, Steve, don't say any more. Please. I'm not disrespecting you. You a star, and I got love for you. But I'm giving you facts. I'm going to continue, Paul George, because I have the notes right here. You've missed 119 of 308 regular season games. That's 38% due to injuries. In that time span, you've earned $148.2 million in your career. $57.3 million of those monies were for games missed. That a good enough stat for you, Gabe? Yeah. Kawhi Leonard, he's missed 147 of 308 regular season games. That's 48% due to injuries. Kawhi's earned $146.9 million in his career with the Clippers. About $70.8 million were for games he's missed. So combining that 70 with the $57.3 million, the $70.8 million plus $57.3 million, that comes up to $121.1 million in salary paid to you both for missed games. I don't see the Clipper fans getting any refunds. I still am waiting for that championship from the fair-weather stepchild known as the Clippers compared to the Lakers, even though I think the Clippers are a first-class organization and your day is coming. And let's make sure we remind the world why you chose months later to call me out. I wish you would have just called me on your podcast. I'd have came, Paul. You know that. For you, with any time, I would have came. But since you decided to go this route, this is why I have a podcast. See, you got to understand something. I'm not going to go after everybody, and I'm not going to respond to everything. But the beauty of my podcast, which I own, I operate, I control, is that I can reach out and touch anybody I damn well please anytime I want to.
So you heard what he had to say. And he said a lot. Stephen A. Smith said a lot. Now, I don't understand a few things, and I want to address them quickly. I don't know why Stephen A. Smith keeps reiterating the fact that he owns his own show. Number one, we're fully aware that you own your own show. Number two, we have the you have the resources, and you have the resources. You make enough money to be able to start your own show and own everything that goes into it. So there's nothing to clap for about that. In fact, as a matter of fact, I'd be surprised if you didn't own your own show, considering all that money that you have. That's the second thing. I don't know why Stephen A. Smith feels the need to say that, to continuously point this out to people that, oh, you know, I own my own show. I don't essentially know what that's about. Now, he brought up a lot of points that a lot of people could make in terms of their overall frustration with the Paul George or Kawhi Leonard in this case. If you're a Clippers fan, for example, a Clippers supporter, wanting these guys to be out there and to be healthy. We even heard Jerry West go on Paul George's show lamenting the same thing. Like, you guys just can't stay healthy, right? But there's a fundamental difference between what Jerry West said and what Stephen A. Smith is saying here. Number one, everything that Stephen A. Smith said does not nullify the points that Paul George made. Those two things are totally unrelated. The fact that Paul George made money while being injured has nothing to do with the fact that he's injured. If they didn't pay Paul George while he was injured, he would still be injured. Would it change that fact? No. So why he brought that up, to me, is unclear. I'm not actually sure why he tried to make that as a talking point. Yes, these guys are high earners. Yes, they're going to make a lot of money without being healthy. But I don't think Paul George and Kawhi Leonard are the first ones. There are a litany of players. Some that are proven and some that are not proven. Look at Zion Williamson. They're still paying him. When was the last time you saw Zion Williamson play a basketball game? Look at Ben Simmons. They're still paying him. When was the last time you saw Ben Simmons play a basketball game? Look at Kevin Durant. The year I think he tore his Achilles and he was still rehabilitating. The Brooklyn Nets signed him and they paid him for the entire season. Was he not injured? Yes, he was injured. Am I saying this to excuse Paul George? No, I'm saying this because Paul George doesn't set precedent here when we're talking about the NBA. This happens all throughout the NBA. So to say that and make it seem like it's something that is unique to Paul George is quite strange. Number two, he's saying it in a way where it kind of suggests, and I could be wrong, this is just how I'm interpreting it. He's saying it like as if Paul George is willingly not wanting to play while still collecting money. If you go listen to Paul George on his podcast, which I have many times, where he even discussed load management, Paul George basically essentially said that he doesn't believe that load management is good. He's actually, he misses the time when he was an Indiana Pacer, when he first came into the NBA and they were doing 2-a-days. He felt like it was helping him mentally. He felt like it was helping him physically, helping his body to develop a callus. So he doesn't like it. And we're now understanding that this load management, this rampant load management that's taking place is something that's being pushed by the organizations themselves. Right? This point was alluded to when Ty Lue, the head coach of the Clippers, went and sat down on All the Smoke podcasts. When Steven Jackson said, some people don't even realize it's the Clippers medical staff that's opting to do this. And Ty Lue said, when you have players with an injury history, it makes sense to protect your asset. So the way Stephen A. Smith was talking about it made it seem like as if Paul George is just actively sitting down games when he's perfectly healthy. In the case of Paul George, the reason we didn't see him last is because he was injured. Now, if we're talking about load management, then that's a separate issue. But that's not what Stephen A. Smith was talking about, was it? So to me, Stephen A. Smith seems like someone that's not going to back down. He's even cussing on the show, which is fine. I mean, it's his thing. But I don't think it really addresses the point that Paul George made. Paul George simply said, you have never played basketball at a high level. So for you to be making these comments as someone that's never had this direct experience, it's inappropriate. Now, whether or not you covered the game for 30 years, that's one thing. Do you have a close, intimate understanding of the business? 100%, right? Do you rub shoulders with players? Absolutely. But also you have to understand that there's certain levels where you can observe the game and talk to players, but you can't get on the court and play, right? And you don't know all of the checks and balances that you have to go through in order to ensure that you're able to be green light, clear to play an actual basketball game. Right. So Paul George is like, if you're looking at me move at game speed, doesn't mean, moving at certain speed. He's like, if you pay attention, those guys are moving slow. In an NBA game, that's not essentially how it works. So Stephen A. Smith did his thing. So what I want to know from you guys is, what do you think about Stephen A. Smith going back as Paul George? Do you think it was a little bit too personal, or do you think that, hey, it's par for the course, Paul George started it, Stephen A. Smith is finishing it? Whatever you guys think, leave your thoughts in the comment section. And again, if you want today's full show, check out the Dreamerspro podcast. We have that pinned in the comment section. You can follow us on iTunes or Spotify. See you guys later. Peace.